Everyone makes mistakes, and whether you're a total beginner and you're just trying to get your first shows, or you're a seasoned pro that's been mixing for years, everybody has something that they can improve on. I've certainly made plenty of mistakes throughout the years, and I still make mistakes now. So with that in mind, here is my top 5 mistakes that I see people making, all the way from beginner mistakes to pro mistakes. Check them out, and if you've not made any of these mistakes, then leave a comment below and maybe I'll give you a gold star. So the first mistake, all the way at the beginner end of things, is not being polite. Like, manners cost nothing, and being a nice person will get you further in this industry than having all the technical chops will. Knowing how to talk to other people, being courteous, will open doors in venues with other engineers, with producers and tour managers. Everyone that you work with will want to work with you if you are a nice person. If you are a really, really enjoyable person to get around with, but you don't quite have the technical skills, an employer is more likely to think, well, I can train them to do what I want them to do, but they can't train you to be a pleasant person to be around. So if you're not pleasant, no one will want to be around you. And remember, we're in this job because we love it, right? We love audio, we love shows, we love live events, right? So why even bother with this job if you're not going to be happy about it? Sure, everyone has bad days, but how you react to your bad days makes a big difference. Ultimately, this is a customer service job where we're interacting with producers and bands. So if you can get a great mix, but you can't get a great mix with a smile on your face, then maybe you're in the wrong job. It's okay for an artist to suck, or there to be a bad event producer every now and then. But if you're finding that you run into bad artists and bad producers more often than not, then maybe your attitude is the problem. So just be polite. The second mistake that I see near the beginner end of our list here is not asking enough questions. And on the topic of not asking enough questions, I've got a question for you. Do you need help with your EQ? If so, check out the free guide at offshoreaudio.no/EQ or the link down in the description. No one knows everything, and you need to acknowledge that you don't know everything and you cannot know everything. Therefore, asking questions is paramount. I have a little theory about how we progress through gaining knowledge and experience in any job, right? And I've decided to call this the CLIMB framework because it's cool to name things, right? So we start with C for curiosity, right? That's the start where you know nothing. And you're just like going around being like, how do I learn this? I want to know, tell me everything. You ask everyone questions, you sit, you watch, and you learn. The next stage is limitation. And that's the part where we think we know everything. We have learned enough to be dangerous. We are going into shows being like, yeah, I got this. I'll nail it, right? And it turns out actually we don't really know anything yet. We're still very, very early in our career. And so that's the point where you need to be really aware and still ask questions, even though you think you know everything. Third stage is insight, when we have the awareness to realize that we do not know everything, and we go back into the stage of learning, right? We continue to ask questions and we seek to better ourselves and gain actual expertise. And this is the longest phase in any career before you get to the last point, which is mastery. Mastery is when we have an enormous amount of experience and competence, but we also realize that we cannot possibly know everything. So we lean on others and we know when to ask the questions and who to ask the questions to get the desired result. As I said, it's really important to ask questions at every single stage. Just do not stop asking questions. I had a show some time ago where someone asked me to set up some wireless microphones, and I was like, yeah, I know how to set up wireless microphones. And I do, right? And so I set it all up, and basically this guy came over and was just like meticulously going through every stage and started pointing out these tiny little inaccuracies that I'd made. And I was kind of like, I definitely knew enough to do a really good show, but I didn't know exactly what this guy wanted. So I should have asked. Now, I will say that it's important when you ask a question, you learn from it and you internalize it, and you don't continue asking all the same questions over and over again, because that's tiring and that shows that you're not learning. But if there's something you're unsure of, or even if you're like 95% sure, just ask, because any decent engineer will be following rule 1, be polite, and they will not chide you for asking questions which help us all have a good show. Third mistake is stopping learning. So as you can see, these are all linking together in some way, and that goes with the questions. There's a lot to learn about audio. right? And it can take a really, really long time to get through everything that you think you need to know to do an amazing show. And it's almost guaranteed that by the time you get through all of the learning that you think you need to know, right? You know, how to do a good mix, gain staging, and like mixing for streams, mixing for broadcasts, like getting headset microphones on, new technology, data standards. As soon as you get through all of that and you think, now I'm comfortable, right? There's going to be new technology. Something else is going to have appeared that you don't know. So you need to be constantly on the lookout for what's new, what's cool, what can I learn? It's too easy to get comfortable and think that you've got this, and some comfort is nice. We don't want to be stressed all the time, but a little bit of stress, a little bit of new and exciting keeps us on the ball, and being on the ball helps us work more creatively as well. Just think like what was acceptable as a mix in the 90s is no longer acceptable now, right? You can be working someday, think you're the bee's knees, and then there comes this young gun in and you're like, this kid doesn't know anything. And it turns out they know everything and you don't know anything anymore. So keep learning, always be curious, keep asking questions. Mistake number 4, and we're getting into the pro territory here, right? And that is being right all the time. No one is right all the time. I'm not right all the time. And I'm on the internet telling people what to do. If we look back to that climb framework, right, the mastery stage involves being open to other people's input. Knowing that you cannot be right all the time, and knowing that you must ask other people how certain things are done, or ask them to do certain things for you, because you can't do everything and you can't always be right. You can totally get blinded by your own competence and think, I've been doing this for 30 years, I know everything, and then waste tons of time trying to find a problem that doesn't exist. I had a show I worked on recently where the AES connections from the mixer to the stage box were flipped, right? 1 was going to 2, 2 was going to 1. But the lights were on and they were green. And the touring engineer on the show said, they're green, that means they're connected correctly. And I said, this has happened to me before. If you just swap them, it'll connect properly. And he said, nope, it can't be. That's not right. That's not how it works. Used like 15 minutes trying to troubleshoot internally in all the console. So in the end, we flipped the wires, everything worked. I was right, he was wrong. Get it up you. No, he was a nice guy, seriously. It was a good show. But it follows up from the last point. You're always learning. Nobody likes a know-it-all. I've actually got a 6th bonus tip, which applies to everyone, beginners and seasoned pros alike. And that is mixing too loud. It's not big and it's not clever. Mixing loud at points is fine. I totally get that we need enough energy in the show to excite the room, to feel the bass, that kind of thing. But that's not 100 dBA over 10, 15 minutes, right? That is a hazardous level to be mixing at for anyone. That's borderline hazardous with hearing protection, right? Did you know that if you mix 100 decibels dBA for 15 minutes, then you'll have permanent hearing damage within 15 minutes of mixing? If you mix 103 decibels, which I have seen, that's 7 minutes before permanent hearing damage. And that's with the microphone measuring this at the mix position. Think of the people down the front. Be a little more considerate for people's health. You do not need it to be that loud. Learn how to measure SPO correctly. Learn how to craft a good mix at a lower volume. Because a longer show means more exposure, means more hearing damage to other people listening. So think of other people, measure what you're doing, and be aware of how loud you're mixing. Let me know how many of these mistakes you've made in the comments down below. I bet it's all of them. I know I've made all of them. I'll leave a link here to a video on SPL and hearing protection. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.